Israel. We're joined by GOP presidential candidate and U.S. Senator Tim Scott. He's a key member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, what's your reaction to these awful images, these heartbreaking stories coming out of Israel as this war against Hamas terrorists moves into now its fourth day?
Well, Wolf, it's just devastating to see the images and watch the videos. You see the one video of the young lady having her throat cut, and then you see her head dragging along the way on the road. That kind of devastation, that kind of evil is the only word for it. That kind of evil should have a swift, clear, complete reaction to it, and we should be supporting Israel, making sure there's no daylight between America and Israel is absolutely essential. And it's time for the president to come back and speak to the nation. It's been 2 days nearly without hearing from the president. And I will say without question, I find him to be complicit in this actual war against Israel.
Well, that's a very strong word, complicit. He has been issuing paper statements, written statements, and we are told tomorrow he will go before cameras and make a major statement in terms of his support for Israel. But when you use the word complicit in this awful Hamas terror attack against Israel, and I'll read to our viewers what you actually wrote. Biden's weakness invited the attack. Biden's negotiation funded the attack. Biden administration wanted Israel to stand down after the attack. At this point, Biden is complicit. Senator, are you at all concerned that these sorts of charges undermine efforts to be united right now here in our country in support of Israel?
Well, I think we should be, without question, totally and completely united behind Israel, period. We should look back at the breadcrumbs that lead back to the hostage negotiation that freed $6 billion. And what did Tehran say about the $6 billion? We will use it in any way we like. What did Hamas say to Iran? They said, thank you. What if we discovered that the negotiation and the planning of this attack was Iran working with Hamas? That is clear cookie crumbs, breadcrumbs, evidence from my perspective that doesn't suggest, it reinforces the fact that Iran is behind these attacks, allowing $6 billion, increasing the price on an American life, and creating a market for hostage taking. It's just devastating.
But you know, you've heard the Secretary of State, you've heard the President say this $6 billion in Iranian funds that have been frozen can only be used for humanitarian purposes, for food or medicine or medical equipment like that. And the U.S. Treasury, through the banks in Qatar, would have the ability to make sure it's only used for those humanitarian purposes. You don't believe them?
No, I don't believe them, number one, and nor should the American people. Here's what we should know. Number one, Tehran themselves said, we are going to use the money any way we want to. Number two, we all know that money is fungible. Put in common terms for a Southern boy like me, that means that once you get the credit on your account, you will spend it any way you want to, even to backfill other areas. And so with Tehran speaking loud and clear, with Hamas thanking Iran, we should take them for what we've seen, which is the devastation, human carnage, and an absolute chaos and atrocities in the Middle East.
On another sensitive issue, Senator, you've called Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville's blockade of military appointments, quote, not necessarily a bad thing, your words, not necessarily a bad thing. But given that Israel is now at war, will you now call on Senator Tuberville to end that hold so that the U.S. military's central command in the Middle East, for example, can be at full strength in the region and these generals and admirals can be promoted?
Well, here's what we should think about. For the last 10 years, we have supported Israel in a way with the investment, the resources, the collaboration, the training that tells us what Prime Minister Netanyahu said. We have the power, the resources, and the manpower, the might to wipe Hamas off the maps. My words, not his words. And they're going to go in there and have a complete siege. They don't need our boots on the ground. What they need to make sure that we have is the ability to refill or backfill the resources and the weaponry as they use them.
So should Senator Tuberville lift his hold and allow these promotions to go forward?
The whole has nothing to do with our ability to respond and protect and, frankly, work shoulder to shoulder with our ally. The frozen promotions is a totally and complete different issue.
I've interviewed the defense secretary and other senior officials over at the Pentagon. They say this hold on promotions is undermining U.S. national security. What say you?
Well, I would just fundamentally disagree. I spent some time on the Senate Armed Services Committee and had an opportunity to watch our men and women from a panoramic view. Our military needs a couple things. Number one, they need the kind of generals who will focus on lethality and bringing our troops home safe. We need, number two, an elimination of any social experimentation, vaccine mandates, disruptions, and losing the focus on winning wars, winning conflicts, and coming home safe. And number three, if we continue to reinvest in our military, it is the strongest way to reduce violence across the world. I believe the Ronald Reagan doctrine of peace through strength has been missing. Getting back to it will not only keep our nation safe, but it will also create peace across the world.
Yeah, but all the top military leadership say they need these promotions. They need them right now. Let me ask you one final question, a political question, Senator,
sure,
before I let you go. Former Republican Congressman Will Hurd just announced he's suspending his 2024 presidential campaign and is endorsing your fellow South Carolinian, Nikki Haley. What's your reaction?
Well, listen, Will served his country as a CIA person and has served his country as a member of the Congress. Thank you for your service, Will. I look forward to seeing you sometime soon. I can't comment on his endorsement, but I will simply say that making sure that America knows that we can also accomplish the most remarkable things. My goal is to protect the American dream for the next generation, and that means starting with reinvesting in our military, protecting our southern border, and standing toe-to-toe with our adversaries.
Senator Tim Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf.
Let's get some more now in the breaking news we're following. Our senior international correspondent, Sam